Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another edition of the NASCAR Fantasy Podcast right here on KRC, live on the channel. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get on into the race review of what happened this weekend on Sunday's Road America Cup race, the first Cup Series race at Road America since 1956. So very new to the schedule as far as the Cup Series goes. We've been seeing the Xfinity Series race here for a little over a decade leading in. They also raced there this weekend as well, but this is strictly going to be on the Cup Series. Of course, with it being the NASCAR Fantasy Podcast, we'll talk all things fantasy fall off, not only how my team did, but how our fantasy league stacked up as well as we get closer to the end of regular season grand prize here in just about another month and a half away. So again, like, share, subscribe. We're going to get on into this one. Tyler Burbeck, Kyle Larson fan, welcome to the stream. As usual, we always go into chronological order. We start off with stage one, stage two, stage three going forward. And we'll go from there. We'll also talk about my experiences at Road America for the race weekend. This was the fourth straight cup race I've been to at the third different track, of course, because that counts. I was at Pocono. I saw two Cup races there, so technically I've seen the last four Cup Series races. But I'm going to be in the comfort of my own home for the next few races, and then NASCAR's got that 2 week break coming up here pretty soon as well. And then the next race I'll be going to will be the Indianapolis road course in the middle of August, and then Michigan the week after. So I'll be seeing back-to-back races again at some point this season. Again, thanks for everybody tuning in. We're going to start off talking about stage one. We had a very early caution in this race. It was on lap number 4. Well, first and foremost, leading the field to the green was William Byron. He qualified on the pole for already the sixth time in his NASCAR Cup Series career. This is only his fourth full-time season in the Cup Series, so already 6 poles. Pretty good. And that's considering that we really only had practice of qualifying for 5 races last year, and I think so far this year we've only had it for 4 or 5 races. So just insane what William Byron is able to do in qualifying. Honestly, it really reminds me of Ryan Newman in those early to mid 2000s, where it seemed like every race, it didn't matter whether it was a road course, short track, intermediate, Ryan Newman was qualifying on the pole a lot. I think he has currently 51 career poles in his NASCAR career through qualifying, and William Byron's already got 6. Now, Newman doesn't have the most by any means, but a lot of those for Newman were in the early portion of his career. That's why he was nicknamed the Rocket Man. We got to figure out a nickname for William Byron when it comes to qualifying, because this is no surprise. He will have a lot more poles to come. But anyway, with having the pole, he was able to keep that track position through most of the race. Again, we had a caution on lap 4. Daniel Suarez had a transmission failure at some point in that race. Not the first time we've seen that from Daniel Suarez and that Trackhouse Racing team, on road courses this year where they've had some sort of mechanical issues. This one with the transmission. Coincidentally enough, we saw the same transmission failure in the same area of the racetrack in qualifying for Bubba Wallace. In fact, I think they stopped in nearly the exact same area of the racetrack. So I'm not sure what happened. Suarez also did clip the grass literally a couple turns before that while battling for position. So I don't know if maybe that had something to maybe redline it and spark an issue there. But regardless of the fact, tough break for Daniel Suarez. He did return to the racetrack later in the race and was able to pick up a couple more spots from other drivers who had dropped out or had issues of their own, but unfortunately took a very big win out of the sail of the 99 team. Very tough break, too, for Suarez because he was closing in on that cutoff line after a great run at Nashville, had a top 10. He had a top 10 in one of the Pocono races, had some good runs going. He was only 48 points below the cutoff line. He was chunking away at it slowly and was 6 races before the playoffs. Even after this race, you were thinking if he had another good run today, like he did at Sonoma on the last road course race that they ran on, that he could have maybe closed that gap a little bit more, but could have, would have, should have. Tough break there for Daniel Suarez, especially to see him get taken out of it really before he can get started. We had another incident later in the stage, which ended up ending the stage when Kyle Tilley went off course. He got stuck in the sand gravel. I believe he had a flat left front tire. Tough break for Tilley. Ended up bringing out a caution. I knew once he got into the sand, he probably wasn't going to get out. And it took them an extremely long amount of time to get him out of there. Now, granted, it was with a couple laps to go on the stage, so the stage was likely going to end under caution anyway. So that's probably why the safety crew was taking an extremely long amount of time, not really rushing to get him out of there because they had the extra couple caution laps. So that ran into a very long yellow. I didn't have a stopwatch on it, but it was very long at the racetrack, especially, you're watching the TV screen or the jumbotron. I was in turn one, so we had a jumbotron literally at the end of the grandstands, like right where we were sitting, going into turn one. And I mean, there wasn't really anything to play other than watching them pull Tilly's car out of the sand gravel. So tough break there. I don't think he ended up getting back on the. Oh no, he did get back on the racetrack, but he was a couple laps out. Funny thing with that too, at least the grandstands in turn one, every single time when Tilly got the car repaired and back out on the racetrack, the fans were cheering, and every single time, like he was so far off the pace the entire race too that you would see the leaders, like whether it was a restart or even like midway through a green flag run, they would drive past, and then the fans like cheering so loudly for Tilly, who comes like a half a track, like 2 miles behind the leaders. I thought that was kind of funny, but anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I don't like I've been to races before where that has happened, but it seemed like Chase Elliott would roar by late in the race and the fans were cheering, and then the fans were cheering just as loud in turn one when Tilly was crossing the start finish line like a half a lap later. I found that very funny. Um, Also, yeah, Ethan, Ashton G, welcome to the stream as well. What's up? How many playoff spots are left for Cup? There is what 11? Yeah, 11 different winners so far this season. So there's 5 spots open still. 4 points. With Atlanta, I'll get into the Atlanta situation at the end. Yeah, we gotta talk about this race here first and foremost. So stage one results look like this: William Byron with another stage win this season. AJ Allmendinger was actually second, Kyle Larson third, Tyler Reddick fourth, Matt Kenseth, or I was thinking of the NASCAR Heat 5 streams. Ross Chastain fifth, sixth was Denny Hamlin. Christopher Bell was seventh, Alex Bowman eighth, ninth was Kurt Busch, and Chase Elliott rounded out the top 10. Crazy how Elliott got into the top 10 after starting at the rear. Another situation there in qualifying, there were 2 cautions in the first, or red flags, I guess, because when there's a wreck in qualifying, it's a red flag. But anyway, there was 2 stoppages in qualifying due to some sort of mechanical failure or an incident, one of them being Bubba Wallace. Later in the segment, Elliott was on the track both times and never got a lap in, unfortunately. So that's why he ended up starting 34th. There were not only him, I think there was like 4 drivers that didn't actually get a lap in qualifying because of that. That weren't already starting at the back, like a Ryan Preece or Kyle Busch, because they were in backup cars. So tough break there for Elliott. And it was going to be fun to watch him and Kyle Busch come from the back to the front, and especially in stage one, passing all those cars was definitely a blast for incident in that stage. Ran pretty smoothly all the way to the end. Trying to think of like some big moments that might have happened in that stage. Chase Elliott didn't quite get to the lead at that point in time. Guys like Matt DiBenedetto were starting to run inside the top 5 a little bit more often. Kyle Busch had made his way to the front, and he had actually taken the lead for his first time there late in stage 2, and then ended up hitting pit road. More pit strategy like we saw. Well, I should say we didn't see the pit strategy so much in stage 1 because of that caution coming out late in the stage, but we definitely saw it in stage 2 where you saw some guys that either already had wins, weren't looking at stage points as crucially, so they were pitting, or drivers that were outside the top 10, not in position to get stage points, were pitting before the stage. So that way, during the stage, those other drivers who got the stage points would pit, they would have to cycle behind them. With this being a 4-mile road course, you could take as much time as you wanted. You were not going to go a lap down, so no pressure there to have any pit road penalties. And I don't really remember seeing any pit road penalties throughout the course of the day. You'd have to correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on that one, but I don't remember seeing any, which is also interesting because of the way pit road is at Road America, where the fueling's on the right side of the race car. You actually have to service for tires the left side before the right side, so it's a complete 180 of how teams would normally have to pit their race cars while making those pit stops. Not the first time we're going to see this year. Actually, when we go to the next 2 road course races at Indianapolis and Watkins Glen, it's going to be that way too. But with this being the first time, again, I don't remember seeing any penalties in the race for the crew members. So maybe there was a speeding penalty at some point, but not for the crew members that I can remember. So kudos to all of those teams this weekend being mistake free. End of stage two, Tyler Reddick was one of the drivers that stayed out. He elected to get that stage win, fell right into his lap. He was in the top 10 pretty much all day, qualified fourth as well, despite spinning at the end of qualifying. He got his lap in before he spun, so the lap still counted. He was definitely one of the more wild drivers throughout the course of the race, entertaining to watch. But he ended up getting that stage two win. It was his first stage win of the season. William Byron second, right up there again. Big points day early, at least for Byron. Ross Chastain third, Kyle Larson fourth, Kurt Busch fifth, Joey Logano sixth, Kevin Harvick seventh, Bubba Wallace eighth. Ninth was Justin Haley at the end of the stage, and Kyle Busch rounded out the top 10. Into the final stage of the race, we only had one more caution for incident. Anthony Alfredo blew a rear rotor going into turn one. Just missed it on camera. I saw it happening. Obviously, when you're at a road course, you can't see the whole track unless you're at a road course built into an oval, maybe. But a traditional road course, you can't see the whole track. So with Road America, you could see less of it. Watkins Glen, I sat on the front straightaway, so you could see the front stretch. You could see turn one. You could see the S's. Then the cars would disappear after the S's into the bus stop. But then off the exit of turn five, you could see them into 6, 7, and back around. So you can't quite see the whole track, but you can see most of it there. And then at Mid-Ohio, when I was there for the Xfinity race earlier this season, I was in turn one. You couldn't see the start-finish line because of the bridge. They'd come out from underneath the bridge. You'd see turn one. You see them go all the way down into turn two, into that tight hairpin-like corner, on the longest stretch of the racetrack, into the kink, and then into turn four. And then they would disappear, but it's a much shorter road course. So, again, you can see nearly half the track. Road America, you could see them where I was sitting in turn one. And because of that giant hill on the front stretch, you really only could see from the start finish line to turn one and then just getting into turn two. And that's really all you could see, at least at my area of the racetrack. I was in the infield before and after the race. You could see a little more of the racetrack from different points of the infield. That maybe you could have better vantage points. They had this tower up there where you could see like everything in the turn five area, plus the finishing corners, and then all the way to the start finish line. But then because of that hill, you couldn't see over the start finish line at all too. So there were a lot of like blocking vantage points. That was the only takeaway, I guess, from being there in person. But anyway, so you're going to see nearly every car that comes by if you're paying attention in turn one. You can see the chunks of rubber coming out from the right rear of Anthony Alfredo's car getting into the corner, and I pointed right away because I was like, he is not going to make this corner, and he spun into the gravel, got stuck. Good thing he didn't really damage the car too much because he kept it off the wall and everything. I think it had the makings of a lot bigger accident than what it actually ended up being, but kudos there. Also, I had the spotters sitting behind me in turn one. So I sat in the same spot for qualifying. I got there in the middle of session one. There was probably about 12 minutes left of the session. Got to my seats with a couple minutes left right before Bubba Wallace stopped on the track and they had a red flag there. Sitting there, grandstands were fully open. I went down into the infield after qualifying before the race for a couple hours. Got back up to my seats to make sure I could get there before my seat was taken because it was general admission. I didn't want to lose my seats. I figured, okay, I'm going to sit in turn one for the race. And the top 3 rows from like the middle of the grandstands all the way to the right end were cleared off, and I was sitting in the top couple rows. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why is it taped off? And then, sure enough, like less than a half hour before the race starts, all these spotters are walking up. So, because they have them spaced around on road courses at different variances of the racetrack. I guess I actually talked to Alex Bowman's crew chief for a brief moment, and asked him how many spotters there were around the racetrack for each team, and and then I want to say it was either Stenhouse's or Priest's spotter he was talking to up there. It was one of the JTG guys because they had like a Kroger / Cottonelle t-shirt on. I don't know which one he was covering for the weekend. Anyway, I was talking to them for a little bit, and they were like, yeah, there's like 4. And then the one for JTG said, I forget what team he said, but he's like, I heard somebody's bringing like 7. And then the Bowman spotter was like, it was like 7. It was like, that's kind of weird, like extreme. Like, why would you bring 7 spotters to the racetrack? That's a lot of talking heads in one ear, I'm sure, for whoever that driver was. But I think he was flubbing. I don't think he was actually serious about it. But anyway, I thought that was pretty. I don't know. I thought that was a unique moment, sitting like literally 2 rows below some of the spotters up there. I felt like when I was standing up on like the restarts and stuff, that I might have been blocking one of their views because of how tall I am. And then like I think whose spotter was it? Austin Dillon's, I think, was sitting. Austin Dillon and Daniel Suarez, a spotter, were sitting like right next to Bowman's. I feel like when I stood up, that they were short enough that they probably couldn't see over me, or at least had a little bit of like an obscure uh, structure in their way. But they didn't tell me to sit down, and the NASCAR official that was up there didn't tell me to sit down either. So I guess it wasn't as big of a deal as what I might have thought it was. But I was a little scared that they were gonna have to tell me I had to sit the whole race or something. But they didn't, so that part of it was cool. It was good, and then yeah, it was cool, basically being right where the spotters were in turn one. But I forget where I was at. Oh yeah, Anthony Alfredo spun again. Final caution of the race. In the middle of that, Eric Almirola and Ryan Blaney were on pit road. Blaney had a little bit of damage, I believe, from the restart before. Had basically a hole in the nose. The hood was kind of flapping a little bit, so they were trying to duct tape that on, that down, so that way they could get more downforce into the car, more aerodynamics, all that stuff. And that led to both of those cars being on the front row for the final restart of the race. They got blown right around. Blaney, especially with the extra damage in the race car. And Chase Elliott went from fifth to first in about a half a lap. Kyle Busch was the first guy to get to the lead, and he got to the back bumper of Busch literally a couple corners later and got right around, blew around him, just like he blew around him right before the caution, like he blew around DiBenedetto before the caution when Matt DiBenedetto was leading early in the stage. Elliott by far was the best driver on that racetrack, had the best car on the racetrack. And I don't even know so much that like his car was that much faster. I think it's just Elliott and the road course ability that he has, that he was just flat up beating everybody. Like it wasn't like it was him and the car. I'm sure the car was good, it was strong, but Chase Elliott is just so good on road courses. I don't think it's so much the car anymore. I think it's just him putting a butt whooping on everybody else, and Kyle Busch can't keep up with him. He can't, figure it out. And I'm sure, if we go to Road America more often, 5, 10 years down the line, that's not going to be the case anymore. Guys are going to catch up to Elliott. But with going to these newer road courses, the road course talent is going to prove more so than anything else, but more, especially more than equipment anywhere else for the first few years going to these different road courses. That's going to play right into Elliott's wheelhouse perfectly, and it did this weekend. Even with not leading until the final stage of the race, he still led the most laps, 24 laps led, and gets the victory. His second of the year, also the fourth time I've seen Chase Elliott win in person. All 3 Cup Series road courses I've gone to in the last few years, Chase Elliott has won them all. 2019 at Watkins Glen and the Roval, and then this year at Road America. I'm going to another road course in the next Cup race I go to at the Indy Road Course. I'd be damned if Chase Elliott did not win that one too, because I guess when I go to a road course for the Cup Series, Chase Elliott's gonna win. But anyway, that was pretty much the full thoughts on the actual race itself. Had a great time at the racetrack. Actually got to go to Victory Lane for the first time ever. Michigan, they have Victory Lane on the front stretch, but I haven't been down there for it yet, so I'm definitely going to make sure I do that this year, assuming they let the fans back out on the racetrack, and they might not. I don't know. Michigan's been pretty strict with their COVID policies since all of it began, but we'll see when the time comes in a month. Maybe I can get there. But anyway, Road America's Victory Lane, I had walked past it pre-race in the infield because pretty much anybody had infield access. Not like to pit road or anything or the garage area, but like to get to different sections of seating, around the racetrack or for camping purposes and stuff like that. There's a tunnel underneath the main straight near the start-finish line. You walked under, you were in the infield. And Victory Lane was literally right on the other side of pit road, that wasn't blocked off, where there was no crews or anything. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder if I can go there after the race. So as soon as Elliott crossed the start finish line, in the middle of him getting into turn one right after the race, I was power walking my way down there so I could get down there and in time. And luckily, I was able to get there in time and got to see Victory Lane for the first time ever. So that was pretty cool. And with Chase Elliott winning there was obviously a huge crowd around Victory Lane too. So that's up on Instagram. That'll be part of the vlog when it all comes out as well. But I thought that was pretty cool experience. And thanks for everybody else tuning in, by the way, that I haven't shouted out yet. Carson Boy, Inside Uranus, Trevor Grimes, welcome on in. unhide Oni from the channel, please. I saw your comment on that earlier. I only hid him from that stream. He is not hidden from anything else. Like it was just that one stream a couple weeks ago when he was getting out of hand with like the fake accounts and stuff like that. Is the only like I didn't ban him from the channel. I literally timed him out for like 300 seconds, and I think he left in the middle of it. And if he hasn't been back, that's his own fault because he's not banned. You know, I'm more than welcome to come back. He just got out of hand. So, for you're not the only one that has asked that within the last couple streams. Like, oh, where's Oni and this stuff? I did not ban him. He just hasn't been back on his own time. So I have not hit him. I literally hit him for. I remember it. I hit him once for a minute, and then I hit him for 300 seconds because he kept it up. Third strike was gonna be me removing him from the entire not channel, but from that live stream in general. But it didn't even come down to that. I think he left after he got hit the second time. So clearing the airways on that real quick because you're not the only one that has asked that, Carson Boy. Dark Crypto, welcome to the stream as well. So yeah, that's the thoughts on Road America. Finishing results look like this. Again, mentioned Chase Elliott just got his second win of the season, both on road courses. Christopher Bell finishes second. I was completely wrong on him, but we'll get to those predictions analysis here in a couple seconds. Kyle Busch finished third, Kurt Busch fourth, Denny Hamlin rounded out the top five. Great run for Chase Briscoe finishing in sixth. Ross Chastain seventh, Tyler Reddick at eighth, Martin Truex Jr. ninth, and Matty D rounds out the top 10, leading the second most laps in the race for Matt DiBenedetto there. And as far as the DNFs go, Ryan Preece had an engine failure earlier on in the race. Saw him up in smoke pretty much at the same time that Daniel Suarez had that transmission issue, but Preece was not able to get the car back out onto the racetrack. Ryan Eversley had a rear gear issue, as well as Austin Cindric. Forgot to mention Austin Cindric was leading early on, and he ended up having an issue. He overran, I believe it was turn 3 or 4. I somewhere around. Actually, it might have been 5 because I think they count the kink as a corner and stuff like that. So I think it was turn 5 he had an issue where he overran the corner, almost ended up in the grass, and then lost like a couple positions out of it. And then like 2 corners later, he was very slow, but still spun out instantly. I thought he did it on purpose to bring out a caution, but then the field kind of passed by and he limped it to pit road. There was no caution, so I don't know. Exactly what the issue was. I guess looking at it now is a rear gear issue. They did get the car back on the racetrack to at least get some more lap times in because he is very young. He's not running for points, but tough to see there. Yeah, again, we'll get into the predictions very soon here. We'll get into them right now, actually. I mean, now that we already went through the finishing results to that. I know you guys probably want my thoughts on Atlanta Motor Speedway, but again, we do have to cover everything from Road America first, but the sound is different. Can you ban me now? Oh, what's different about the sound? Hang on. I think it should be good. Maybe it's. I don't know. It might be my chair squeaking too. This chair's starting to. Not old, but it's got its year and a half of use now on the channel. Roughly a year and a half. A little less than that, but anyway. All right, so on to the predictions. How did my predictions stack up? Again, we do a predictions episode of the podcast every race day. Last few weeks, it's been in the morning because I've been at the racetrack in person. That'll start being a couple hours before the start of the race again instead of earlier in the morning because I'm not going to another race here for about another month and a half. So anyway, if you watched early in the if you watched in the morning on Sunday, these were my predictions for drivers you should have had in your lineup, possible sleeper picks for your garage picks and don't haves. I like to go back and look at the predictions to see where I was right, where I was wrong, if I was right, or if I was wrong in general. And this week I did miss on a few of them. I do have to say, though, also, it's really tough to do it before qualifying starts. And I did do this before qualifying because I wanted to get to the track for qualifying, which I did. Usually before COVID, qualifying was always the day before or 2 days before the race. It was either on the Friday or Saturday before it. Or if it was on a Friday, it was typically because it was a Saturday night race. But sometimes I had it on Friday and the race was on Sunday because of the truck and Xfinity races and practice and stuff like that. So, but anyway, they would have it not on the same day. So having to do these predictions and stuff before I actually see qualifying For instance, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott had to start at the back. They were guys I were very high on. I was a little nervous about those predictions, and specifically for my fantasy team for that reason, because they were starting out back, and I was planning on them, you know, doing pretty good. Now I knew Kyle Busch was going to start out at the back because he had um, to go to a backup car, but he had the extra laps at the Xfinity race too, so I wasn't worried about him. But I was worried about Chase Elliott not having a single lap in qualifying that day. But he ended up obviously bouncing back pretty well. So I guess I'll start off with the must-haves. I nailed it right on the head with all three of those guys. Chase Elliott ended up winning the race. He was my prediction to win. How about that? I started this season so bad. I think I was 0 for 13 before I got my first prediction right. And now 20 races in, I've predicted 5 of the last 7 races correctly. So I am on a hot streak right now with that. And I thought that I wasn't going to be able to predict more races correct. Again, I predicted 9 in the first season of the channel last year. This is the second season of the channel. And I predicted for Chase Elliott to win this weekend, and I had 0 after the first half of the regular season. I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to get to 10 and beat last season. Well, now I'm at 5 all of a sudden halfway. We still got 16 more races. To get 5 in the last 16 is not ideal, but I mean, just to get like 10 in the last, 23 races would just be insane stretch. But so far, so good. And it's not like I'm only picking Kyle Larson each week, too. And I know it's a road course. I picked Chase Elliott, but I picked Kyle Busch to win Pocono. And then I picked Larson to win 3 of the 4 races he won as well. So, I mean, it's just, again, I've just been on a hot streak. So, again, that's why you want to watch the predictions and all the fantasy advice. But anyway, so I nailed Chase Elliott. He won the race. He was my pick to win. Obviously, before that, he was a must-have. Kyle Busch was another must-have going into the weekend. He was top 3 once he had a top 3 car at least. Ended up finishing 3rd, but started at the back, so it took him a little bit of a ways to get up there. Obviously, a good finish for him. And Joey Logano was the 3rd driver on the must-have list, and I guess he finished 15th. Okay, so I was wrong on Logano. I thought he would run a little bit better than that. He was better in the first couple stages of the race. I don't know what happened. Maybe they just missed the setup there late. Maybe fatigue was starting to cut in. It was very hot, 95 degrees on race day with heat index over 100, way hotter in the race cars. He was 6th at the end of stage 2 there. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what happened to Logano that helped him or that made him fall back. Again, that's another that's the only downside with being there in person is you kind of miss on some details from time to time if you miss the broadcast, especially when you go to a road course because you can't see the whole track either. But okay, so I guess I was 2 for 3 on the must-haves. I didn't realize Joey Logano finished 15th, so just double looking at the race results right here. So 2 for 3, not bad. If I go 2 for 3, honestly, like every single time, that's 6 out of 9. That's 66%. The 2/3 of my predictions are correct, and I give very precise predictions too. So it's not like, well, I say that they're going to finish in the top 10 for sure, but trying to predict 6 guys every week to finish in the top 10, that's unlikely that I'm going to get all 6 of them right. But hey, I did pretty good this week. Into the sleeper picks, Kurt Busch was the guy I was highest on with the sleeper picks. He was fastest in practice. He had ran good on the road courses throughout the course of the season. Finished finished 6th or better in 2 of the first 3, and he does it again with a 4th place finish at Road America. So nailed it right on the head on that one. He didn't qualify as great as I thought he would. He started just outside the top 12. I think he qualified 15th and missed the second session, but it didn't matter what happened in qualifying. It's what matters in the race, and he performed very highly. Great day for Kurt Busch. Nailed that prediction. Michael McDowell was running good early. He was another one of my sleeper picks. He was in the top 10. He was like 8th to 10th basically through stage 1. And then midway through stage 2, he ended up picking up some damage on the front of the race car, similar to what Ryan Blaney had. But his was more like right in the radiator area of the racetrack. Basically put a hole in the nose. And he was hanging on for dear life at that point because I think he was still in 8th, but he was nowhere close to the 7th place car. And he had a train of cars behind him he was holding up there for a little bit. And then once one car got around him, they were just following their way around McDowell at that point. So tough break there. Had a good race car, had a good run early. Looked like he was going to get a top 10, but one thing led to another. He did not get it, so I was wrong on his prediction. And AJ Allmendinger finished 2nd at the end of stage 1, ran top 5 early. was very high on him. He was the other sleeper pick, and he did not perform very well. By the end of the race, he was having a cooling issue with the race car too. I'm sure that didn't help, and they had an extremely long pit stop at the end of stage two. The stage two break, he was on pit road, and they were under the right side of the race car. I'm not sure what they were under for. I don't know what the issue was. It must have been severe because he was never really in the top 20 again after that, compared to being in the top five through the first half of the race. So that was a little odd, but I was wrong on AJ Allmendinger at the end. He did not get a good finish. He did get some stage points, but he ultimately didn't do as well as I thought he would have. So I went 1 for 3, I guess, with the sleeper picks. As far as the don't haves go, I didn't have this driver in the don't haves, but I will say I did predict where he ended up running correctly, at least at the end of the race, and basically predicted it to a T, and that was Austin Cindric. That 33 team, yes, it's a fourth Penske car, but when you're not running full time and you're a rookie on top of it, Roger Penske's not going to give Cindric the best equipment right now. He's focused on those 3 cars he has, and maybe even De Benedetto too. How much they're working behind the scenes with Wood Brothers. He's worried about those 4 cars first and foremost. He's not as worried about Austin Cindric in the Cup Series, at least this season. And with that, he's not going to have the greatest equipment. And I know for you guys saying, well, he's so good on the road courses, he's so good on the road courses, obviously you have to have him there. That's not the case this season. I'm sure next year he's going to compete for wins first and foremost. He has looked good both at Road America and COTA in his only 2 Cup Series road course starts. But how long did he actually look good for? 5 laps, 10 laps, that's it. Whether it's him pushing the car too much causing these issues, or the car just falling apart on him because they aren't putting all their bread into that basket for the Cup Series race weekend at the Penske shop, that they're having these mechanical failures. And I mentioned that's what scared me about Cindric and why I didn't really want Cindric on my team. And he was in my garage, but he never made it into my lineup. And I was even leery to put him in the garage for that reason. So that's why he wasn't a don't have, because I was still considering him because of his talent on the road courses. But now I know going forward, if he makes another start in the Cup Series this year on a road course, I'm not going to put him in my lineup, and I'm going to put him in the don't haves list, because it's not that I don't trust Cindric, it's that I don't trust that number 33 team. I mean, he's got the 4th best pit crew every week. He's probably got the 4th best of the Penske crew out of the 4. And he might be the 4th best driver on top of that. Maybe not on road courses, but just in general of those drivers, because he's so young and unproven right now. He hasn't ran a full Cup, at least in the Cup Series. Again, I'm only talking Cup Series. He's a great driver in the Xfinity Series right now. He won a championship last year for a reason. And he's looking like he could be well on his way to doing so again this year too. But anyway, yeah, I'm not very high on Cindric with the Cup Series side of things for this season. Now, next year, we know Keselowski's going to be gone. Maybe he steps into the 2 car with the Wood Brothers. They'll have a little bit better equipment, and I'll be able to trust him a little bit more, especially on the road courses. But for this season alone, I'm not very high on Austin Cindric to having a good run. Still, to this point, through his 7 career starts in the Cup Series, 8 if you want to count the All-Star race weekend, he has not finished higher than 15th in the Daytona 500. So, yeah, again, that was on a super speedway. He hasn't finished in the top 20 outside of that Daytona 500 15th place finish. So I do not trust that number 33 team. Not that I don't trust Cindric, I don't trust the 33 team. And again, that could be Cindric pushing the car too hard. We've seen that with great drivers in lower funded equipment, or great drivers in probably B tier equipment, which is what I consider that 33 car to be. I wouldn't consider it to be an A tier equipment like the rest of the Penske cars. I would consider it like a B tier equipment. And that, you try to run as hard as you can and the car just can't sustain it. And I think Cindric doesn't have the experience to actually be able to recognize that and say, oh, I can't push the car that hard on lap 15. And well, he did at Road America this weekend, and it caused an issue. So, and again, that was the thing at COTA too. That it seemed like he was good for 5 laps, and he just used all of his car up in the first 5 laps of a run that he would fall back to 15th by the end of it. So, He ultimately really didn't look like a race winner, winning contender even in that race. Although I feel like most people were praising him, thinking that he did. And yes, he was outperforming that equipment for 5 laps, but he wasn't putting a full run together by any means. So I did nail that prediction, but I didn't actually. I talked about it on the predictions video, but I didn't put him under a specific category for a don't have or a sleeper. But I did mention it because you guys had asked, like, oh, what about Cinder? Because I didn't have him in the sleepers when I got through it, but I wanted to talk about him for that reason, and I nailed it. That was this weekend was a perfect example of that. As far as the other don't haves go, I was completely wrong on this. I think I was more wrong this weekend than any other weekend so far this season. There's only been a couple races this year where I have gotten most of the predictions wrong, and they happen to be this weekend. For both the don't haves, I only had two of them because I kind of talked Cindric, out of being a don't have a little bit. I should have put him on the don't haves because it would have worked. But regardless of the fact, I didn't. Martin Truex Jr. and Christopher Bell were the two don't haves I had. Both teams are struggling going into this weekend, and for Truex, especially on the road courses for whatever reason this year, outside of Sonoma, he hasn't ran well. They haven't unloaded quick, and going into this weekend, he didn't unload quick either. For practice and even into qualifying on Sunday, they qualified outside the top 10. They missed session number 2 as well. So I was thinking it was going to be kind of the same thing where he was going to run like 10th to 20th all race and not really be a factor. And he wasn't a factor for the win by any means, but he still ended up getting a top 10. He finished 9th, so he proved me wrong for that because I said he wasn't going to get a top 10. So I was wrong there, and I was also way wrong on Christopher Bell. He pretty much came out of nowhere in the final stage of the race. They really got that car hooked up at the very end, similar to what they did when they won the Daytona Road Course race, where they were kind of getting faster throughout the course of the race. They had that late caution in the final 15 laps at the Daytona Road Course. He was able to capitalize and win the race there. They didn't get a late caution today, so he ended up finishing second, but a very great run for Christopher Bell. Second best finish in his NASCAR Cup Series career, and again, proved me wrong. I said he was going to run with Truex pretty much outside the top, at least finish outside the top 10, even if they ran there early. Again, at the end of the day, my predictions are on where they finish. So if they run outside the top 10 all day and they finish in the top 10, and I said that they were going to finish in the top 10, I got the prediction right. If they were running in the top 10 all day long and then faded out, and I said they were going to finish in the top 10, then yeah, I got my prediction wrong ultimately, even if it looked like I was going to be right. So I was wrong on that. So I think I went 4 for 5 this week, and then I guess you could say 4.5 for 5 because of Cindric, but uh, yeah, still a little less than 50% there. So sorry on that. Usually the predictions are a lot better than that, but for whatever reason this week I missed it. And some of it might have been. I think I can't deny that some of it had to have been not being able to see qualifying before I did the predictions. We're not going to have that issue again until the Indy Road Course, and then I think Phoenix is the only other race that we're going to see qualifying. Hopefully they do it the day before the actual Cup race, so that way I don't run into that issue again with the predictions. But I think those are the only two races we have qualifying and practice the rest of the season. Did you predict the race winner on Sunday correctly? It's Chase Elliott. Yes, I did. That was the 5th time I predicted the winner right this year, and all 5 have been in the last 7 races. Inside Uranus, your question on Kurt Busch. Will Kurt Busch win racing as a whole right now? At the same time, too, they're still clicking on all cylinders, and they really have been. You look at, and it doesn't matter whether it's an oval, whether it's a 550 track or a 750 track, they're getting it done at all facets. Nashville, they ran really good. The Pocono doubleheader, Kurt Busch ran really good in the first race, at least. Chastain looked like he had a fast car, but just kind of overdrove it at times. But they had fast equipment, and then they both ran top 10 all day long at Road America as well. So I do think there is a chance Kurt Busch can win considering the race car. And quite honestly, look at Kurt Busch to run well this weekend at Atlanta. Earlier at Atlanta in a 500-mile race this season, Kurt Busch was in the top 3 early on. He got in that accident where Denny Hamlin was just pushing way too aggressively early in the race and turned Kurt Busch into the outside wall, ending Kurt Busch's day right then and there. If that didn't happen, I really do think that Kurt Busch could have contended for the win with Larson and Blaney. We saw Larson was way ahead of everybody for most of that race, and then Blaney caught him at the end. But remember, at the beginning of that race, when Blaney was second or third all day long, that guy he was running with all day up until he wrecked was Kurt Busch. So obviously they're gonna have a different race car likely because they wrecked that last race car. But if they have the same setup, the track conditions are similar than what they were earlier this season. Look for Kurt Busch to have a very good chance of winning. We've seen with Chip Ganassi Racing the last couple seasons that his only wins with Chip Ganassi Racing have been on 550 tracks. Last year at Las Vegas and the year before at Kentucky. 550 track at Atlanta, I really do think Kurt Busch has a good chance to win this weekend, or at least compete for it. I could see him definitely finishing in the top 5 again. So kind of like an early prediction I have for next week is that Kurt Busch will run well next weekend. So as far as getting a win, I would not be shocked if Kurt Busch goes to victory lane next week. He's not my win prediction. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if he did win next week, and that would be his ticket punched into the playoffs. If only I saved AJ into the garage and never saved. That's a bummer. Yeah, when I was at the track, I wasn't getting very good reception, but luckily Cindric was in my garage anyway, so I didn't need to change it. So I guess that looked all right. Tyler Breback should have took Briscoe. I regretted it. Yeah, and that was another driver that I didn't actually put into, much like Cindric. I didn't put him in the sleeper category, but I thought about it. The only reason I didn't is because I didn't trust Stewart-Haas Racing, much like I didn't trust, not Penske, but I didn't trust the 33 team for Penske in general. That was the same thing with Briscoe, why I didn't put him in a specific category. Otherwise, I would have had him in the sleeper pit because he has done well on the road courses. That's really been the only tracks he has done well on this year is the road courses. And he was the top running Stewart-Haas car all day long on Sunday. Finished 6th. So, yeah, I think trying to see what other questions you guys got down there. Of course, a lot of it is on Atlanta. My thoughts on Atlanta Motor Speedway and the reconfiguration, of course. One more thing before we get into the Atlanta talk. Not for this weekend's race, but the repave and reconfiguration. Again, the predictions will be on Sunday this weekend. Is going to be the fantasy. How did my fantasy team do? Well, a lot of the predictions I just talked about were on my fantasy team this weekend, so I'll put that out there immediately. But we'll look at it. We'll look at who ended up winning this week, the overall standings. Again, you can join the NASCAR Fantasy League on the NASCAR mobile app or website. Go to Fantasy. You can sign up with your email. It is free. Search for KRC League, KRC in all caps, capital L for League, and you can join. You can practice for these final 6 races of the regular season coming up, and I say practice because we'll have another new season in the playoffs essentially, and if you win that championship in the playoffs, you get 2 tickets to any race of your choosing. For the 10 of you guys that are still playing for a championship for the regular season, those same things still apply, where if you win the regular season championship, you get 2 tickets to any race of your choosing in 2022, excluding the Daytona 500. And again, we only got 6 races left, and it is heating up as of right now. Again, we'll start off with my fantasy team. I got a lot of bonus points this weekend. I had my top Chevy and top Toyota drivers as Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch. Well, I guess Kyle Busch just missed out, I guess. Yeah, because Christopher Bell beat him late. So never mind. I didn't get bonus points for that. But I did have Chase Elliott winning, so I had him for top Chevy for the race win. And then obviously Chevy winning and Hendrick Motorsports. So I got a ton of bonus points, 40 bonus points total. That really helped the team because I was lacking in certain areas. Elliott did great on my team. Kurt Busch did great on my team. I would have put Kyle Busch, but I only had 1 usage left for him this season. That's why I didn't put him on the team. I did have Logano as a must-have on the team. Finished 15th. Not what I thought Logano would be able to do. He was the only driver going into this weekend who had finished in the top 10 in every road course race this season, but that obviously has come to an end. Michael McDowell had his issues, as I mentioned, as well as AJ Allmendinger. The only other bright spot outside of Elliott for the 5 guys in my lineup this weekend was Kurt Busch. He had a great day. Finished in 4th and ran top 10 all day long, scored a lot of stage points. So if it wasn't for Chase Elliott, if Chase Elliott did not win and Hendrick Motorsports wouldn't have had a car go to victory lane this weekend, I would have gotten likely no bonus points, and my score would be way worse. It's the only thing that keeps me within the top 100 in these overall standings for the league. As far as this week went, the top scorer in the league, was Andrew Hollenbach with 224 points scored. I had 173. I was towards the bottom of the league, so tough break there. I'm trying to click on the. Oh, that's right. I got to go to results. Forgot how to do this for a quick second. Andrew Hollenbach had Chase Elliott on his team. He had William Byron on his team, who did not get a great finish, but scored 19 stage points, scored more stage points than anybody else in the race. So that was an okay pick. Kyle Busch was a great pick. Kurt Busch was a great pick. Ross Chastain was a great pick, and he had Logano in his garage. So must not have paid attention to put. Well, actually, he probably did put Byron in the line because he scored all those stage points, but Byron had that problem late where he overcooked turn 5 and then brought it on the pit road, probably flat spotted a tire after that. So that was reflective in his finish and lost some points there. And he also picked Chase Elliott to win, so he scored a lot of bonus points, much like I did. So Andrew Hollenbach won this week, but the league leader so far, he's in the chat right now. Inside Uranus currently leads the way with 3,793 points, but it is very close at the top. Tim Irvin is Super B-Man 1. He is only 15 points behind him. And again, Andrew Hollenbach won this week, scoring 224 points. If you're within 200 points going into the regular season finale, with it being at Daytona, you've obviously, that gives you a realistic shot to get it done this weekend. But all right, or sorry, get it done at the end of the regular season. That's kind of like the cutoff line, I guess you would say. If we had a cutoff line, would be 200 points. If you're within 200 points going into the final week, you still have a really good shot, especially Daytona being practically a lottery race as it is. So that's even more so, I guess, with the regular season versus the playoffs. And P-Chat Motorsports is sitting in fourth, only 4 points behind me. And then I would be 51 points behind Inside Uranus. And Hollenbach's only 2 points behind Patrick Shadley in the chat. So literally 59 points separate the top 5 right now in the standings. Sauce Mafia is another 100 points behind from there, but again, he's within 200, so it's really close. Right now, it's looking like the top 6 have the best chance. Even Ethan back there in 7th place, although he's like 300 back now, if he has a couple of really strong weeks leading up to Daytona to get him within 200, he's still got a shot. Oni just commented on my video. He was just playing around. He was sorry. I'm sure he was. Yeah, that's why he's not banned. He's not banned from the channel, guys. He can come back. And if for some reason he is, I'll try to fix it, but I didn't ban him. Yeah, I didn't ban him. Yeah, you can tell him he can hop back into the chat. He's not banned. All right. Please join the league so that I have another person I can be from Inside Uranus himself. Yeah, again, the playoffs, everything resets. Everybody starts at 0, and you'll have another chance to win there. So if you're saying, well, why should I, even bother playing in the regular season? 1, so you don't forget to sign up for when the playoffs start. For 2, you got 6 weeks to play. Well, it's for free anyway, but 6 weeks to play where you can get a feel for how fantasy works before the playoffs start. So maybe you can have a better shot to win there. All right, my thoughts. I already talked about my thoughts at the racetrack, but my thoughts on Atlanta Motor Speedway, the big news article of this week that came out, I believe, yesterday when I was at work, so I didn't get a chance to actually see it happen. You guys were asking me about it in the live stream last night, but I didn't have any details on it because I had worked earlier in the day and I only saw the headline about what they were doing. I wanted to read into it first today, and I did, and I gotta say, I'm not particularly happy, and I agree where the drivers are at with it. And I get the hype and why a lot of fans are, because a lot of fans love super speedway racing, and it's essentially like getting another super speedway. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be quite like a super speedway. For one, we're not going to be seeing the speeds on a 1.5-mile racetrack like we would be seeing on even a 2-mile track like Michigan and Fontana with the 750 package. And with Daytona and Talladega, we're not going to be seeing speeds constantly of over 200 miles an hour. Unless they have to lift And if they lift, then the gearing is going to be different. Then the end of straightaway speed will be that fast. But that's the way it was for most intermediates, leading up to the package change a couple years ago in 2019. The reason why I don't like this is because I feel like it's going to kind of not diminish super speedway racing. It's not going to diminish super speedway racing. But if this is a success, are we going to see more 1.5 mile tracks turn into mini Daytonas and Talladegas? Because I could see that happening. If I'm a track owner, or if I work for SMI or even ISC with NASCAR, if I'm, in charge of orchestrating how these racetracks are getting repaved, reconfigured, built, rebuilt, so have you. And I see Atlanta as a huge success year one. They go out there, let's say they run 2 races next season, and they're a hit. They're both awesome, and they're both in the top 10 of races that we have next season with this new configuration. Why wouldn't I want to build a track just like Atlanta or just like Daytona and Talladega? If I've got the money to do it, which if Atlanta and SMI has the money to do it, they're going to bring more money in if it is that kind of racing. And maybe they turn Kentucky into that. Maybe Kentucky's just sitting there. They could revitalize Kentucky. They could bring it back to the schedule. They could run it just like Atlanta is. And if we start doing that, it's going to diminish, in a sense. And I don't want to use the word diminish, but I feel like it's the word that best orchestrates this. Super speedway racing that we know today of Daytona and Talladega. Because if we start seeing that kind of racing every week, or not every week, because we'll have short tracks and road courses in there, but if we start seeing it like even once a month, then when we go to Daytona and Talladega, we're going to say, okay, I'm excited for this weekend, but we just saw the same race last month and before that and before that. And if we keep having like these final lap side-by-side finishes that we always see at Daytona and Talladega, at Atlanta, at Kentucky or Texas, that wants to do this down the line too, and we start racing there 2 times a year because the racing is entertaining, we're gonna have like 10 super speedways on the schedule, and it's gonna diminish super speedway racing. We're gonna be seeing it so often that it's just not. It's gonna take away from Daytona and Talladega, and that's what makes Daytona and Talladega special now. Is that we only get to see that kind of racing 4 times on a 36 race schedule. 4 times on a 36 race schedule, we get to see this. And that's why a lot of people tune in. That is why a lot of people tune in to Daytona and Talladega races, why they're the most viewed races, not only in person, but on TV as well. Because we only see it a couple times a year. It's a can't miss event because if I miss it this time, I'm only going to get one other chance in the next 365 days to watch this, whether it's in person or on TV. But if we start seeing it once or twice a month, then if I miss this week's Atlanta race, I could just catch Texas next week, and it'll be the same thing. And that's where it's going to get diminished. It's not going to get diminished in the short term. Atlanta, again, they could put on a hell of a show next year. And by the looks of it, if it does everything that I feel like SMI is trying to accomplish in SMI's head, if in SMI's head they put on a good show next year with not one but just with 2 races, and we start seeing more tracks go this route on the intermediate side of things, that's where we're going to see it. And then we're going to see this slowly growing or flatlining TV ratings. They may start to just stay flatline or drop. It's not going to bring in new fans. It's not going to, the fans that are already watching, that maybe a diehard like me, which I know I'm going to watch every race that I can because I'm that big of a fan, but maybe somebody that's a little bit lesser of a fan than what I am, in the sense that they don't watch every race, but they respect the sport and they watch the marquee events. They're not going to watch 2 Atlanta races a year, or they're not going to feel bad, I should say, if they miss an Atlanta race, because Texas is going to be the same awesome race the next time out. And then we're going to get into the situation, which I kind of feel like IndyCar in a sense, and why IndyCar doesn't, or at least didn't when they raced more ovals, get as much of a viewership and as much of an appreciation for the great racing on ovals, because most of it was the same. It was high speed, it was close, it was basically like a mini super speedway every race. And you wondered why, fans didn't really gravitate towards it. New fans did gravitate towards IndyCar racing. I feel like is that situation that Texas, if they raced at Las Vegas, at a Charlotte or an Atlanta or a Michigan or a Fontana, they were all the same. If he if that, let me know down in the chat. The chat's been kind of silent since I started talking about this. Let me know if you understand what I'm talking about, and maybe I'll try to put it into like a different perspective or different words. But I mean that's like kind of like an ultimate fear, I guess you would say, that I have with Atlanta going this route. And I'm honestly a little scared and skeptical of it for that reason. Again, I'm not scared that they're not going to put on a good show or a good outturn in the short run, but it might hurt in the long run. And I think that was the same thing if we look back at the early to mid, or I should say the mid 90s into the late 90s into the early 2000s, when NASCAR was chopping a bunch of these short tracks to bring in mile and a halves and bring in the spectators and bring in those fans, those new casual fans, with this era of racing on the intermediates, which wasn't as good as the short track racing. They were capitalizing for a short term game, thinking it was going to pan out long term, and it didn't. And I really think what Atlanta's doing, if we see other tracks follow these footsteps, that same thing is going to happen. Where we're going to see a short term game. Viewership is going to go up for Atlanta races. Attendance is going to go up for Atlanta races. For Texas or Kentucky races, like if they go this route and make miniature Daytonas and Talladegas or miniature super speedways, that it's going to help short term. Fans are going to go to watch it short term. They're going to watch on TV short term, and it's just going to fade after a little bit because they see it every week or every other week, or even twice a month, which when there's 4 to 5 weeks out of a month and you're seeing it twice a month, that's quite a bit. So I mean, in the end, that takes up a third of the schedule. By the end of the year, a half to third of the schedule. It's a lot. So on top of Daytona and Talladega already being there, so it does scare me. It does scare me, and that's why I don't like it. Do I think it's going to be a good turnout for the short term? Yes. Will I watch through and through? Yes, because I am that hard of I'm that diehard of a fan. I can't tell you the last time I've missed a Cup race on TV or in person, and I will continue to watch, continue to support the sport, but I also have to be skeptical of things like this, which in NASCAR's sense, with this being an SMI racetrack, it's kind of out of their control. This honestly isn't much of a NASCAR issue as it is an SMI issue. So, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I think that pretty much wraps up that discussion. You guys were asking, and I did want to talk about it a little bit today. I didn't want to over dwell on it, but those are my thoughts now that I have the information of what the track's going to look like and stuff. Do you think super speedway is racing, quote unquote, real racing? Yes, it is. I do think it's real racing. Because there is strategy that goes into it. There is there's a reason why Dale Jr. was so good at super speedway racing, because Michael Waltrip was good at super speedway racing. Why we're seeing now Denny Hamlin is awesome at super speedway racing. Sterling Marlin back in the day was great at it. Why these guys are as good, because there is a finesse. There is a finesse to super speedway racing. When is the right time to go? How to draft? How is being too aggressive so much and saving that? All that plays in just as much as driving the race car full out, because they're not full throttle the whole time. Mid-pack, you are not full throttle the whole time at Daytona and Talladega. You're trying to keep it off of the next car that's inches apart from you, lap after lap for 500 miles. At the same time, you're trying to feather the throttle to keep from running into the car in front of you because you can bump draft a little bit, but you don't want to push that car into the car ahead of you and you can't see. And then the same thing with the cars behind you. So, yes, I do think that super speedway is real racing. Do drivers go in over their heads nowadays? It seems like at the end of a super speedway race, yes, but just because there's a big crash in a super speedway race doesn't mean it's not real racing or that the lottery effect of it isn't real racing. The only reason it is a lottery effect, I think, personally, is because we usually see a big crash in there, and yeah, it's a little luck. It's a little bit of skill, a little bit of luck for sure, but it's not like it's all luck. Like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we know him being a great super speedway racer right now is the reason why he's good at it. And yeah, he's only got 2 wins on super speedways, but you can't say that those weren't on real racetracks, so therefore his 2 wins don't account for any. No, he earned those wins, and especially now that we see him contending for wins on super speedways a lot, there's a reason for that. It's not like he got him because of luck. There is skill to super speedway racing, but anyway, going into the again, what I said about Atlanta, all that stuff is true too. Where I think it will help for the short because that's the same thing with Daytona and Talladega too. With all if these intermediates start to go that route, is that the intermediates start to go the route that Atlanta's going, and we see more tracks like that. Not only is going to bring like Atlanta and the Texas and the Kentucky viewership down, and maybe attendance down over time, like I'm talking 5-10 years down the road plus, immediately it'll be a success. Long term, might not pan out as well, and that could hurt Daytona and Talladega too. Because if I'm a Talladega fan and I live a couple hours away from let's say a couple hours away from Talladega, but within a reasonable driving distance, that I go there every year, and I go there once a year because I can't go to both. I don't go to both races, but I try to make sure I go to one once a year. Heck, even right now, the last couple of years I've been going to one Talladega race a year. But if Atlanta in Texas or a track closer to me is going to put on that same show, then why go to Talladega if I don't have to drive that far to get there? If I can just watch it at Atlanta or Kentucky. For my instance, Kentucky. I live 3.5 hours away from Kentucky. If Kentucky's going to put on the same racing Talladega and Daytona has, why should I go to Talladega or Daytona when I have to drive 10 to 15 hours for myself personally to get to those racetracks? Kentucky's 3.5 hours away. They have 1 to 2 races on the schedule that look exactly like that. And that's not me. That's that's the casual fan that NASCAR is trying to catch, that the sport is trying to catch. And again, this also, though, again, like I said, this is an SMI decision. This was SMI's decision to make Atlanta this way. But if we see some ISC/NASCAR and more SMI tracks go this route, I think that could be troubling. If Atlanta is the only track to do this, if Atlanta has the success, and as a track owner, they don't follow Atlanta's situation for whatever reason, which if you're a track owner, again, how could you not, unless you don't have the money for it, which obviously is understandable. Why bother? Or I should say, yeah, you guys get the point. But all right, I think I don't know when I started talking about that, but I felt like I've been talking about it for a little while now. But I've got all my points across. At this point, I would just be repeating myself, so I don't want to sound like a broken record here after a little bit. Only thing we have left to do in the predictions video, as we always do, is the power rankings. And I got to say, these power rankings haven't really changed much. Let me pull up last week's power rankings and see if they have changed, but I don't think they have. One quick second. They have. No, never mind. They have. Okay. I was going to say, if they didn't change, then I'm not going to bother. They have changed a little bit. The very bottom and the very top haven't really changed, but the drivers in the middle have definitely changed. So we'll compare last week's list to this week's list as we usually do. Oni said his messages are hidden. Um, that might be something I'll have to change after. I'll get on that as soon as this stream's over before I start the NASCAR Heat 5 career mode race at Sonoma tonight, which is coming up right after this. I will do that. If that's true, Keegan, you should dance on your 1,000th video. Well, that would end up being the Sonoma stream coming up next after this. I didn't realize I was at 999. I'm not going to be dancing anytime soon. But all right, into the power rankings. I will figure out the Oni situation there, Trevor. I will figure it out as soon as the stream's done. I can't really do it right now in the middle of the stream, but I will before the Sonoma race. So no, I apologize for that, Oni, if you're watching. By the way, I didn't mean for that to happen. I was just meaning to settle you down that for that one night that I got taken out of hand. That's all. All right, coming in at number 10 this week, we still have Kevin Harvick. Uh, Harvick's, well, we'll go through all the guys that stayed the same here at the bottom of the list so we can make this a little bit quicker. Kevin Harvick's still number 10 on the power rankings list. Ryan Blaney's still number 9 on the power rankings list. And then Martin Truex Jr. is still number 8 on the power rankings list. Again, the reason why I had Truex so far down, even though he's got 3 wins this season, tied for the second most amount of wins, is because of the consistency as of late. Yes, he did get a top 10 and finished ninth this weekend at Road America. And if he starts to show that top 10 consistency again here in the next couple races too, he's going to start moving back up because he has those playoff points. But the lack of momentum that they had going into Road America this week is why I had him at 8, one top 10 on a ninth place finish with not a lot of stage points isn't going to make me move him up, but it's not going to make me keep dropping him back down either. So especially because Harvick and Blaney ran worse than Truex this week. But the drivers that are higher than him ran better than him for the most part, or were that much higher than him in the power rankings that he couldn't have jumped him this week anyway, unless he went out and won the race. But as far as Truex goes, that is only his second top 10 in the last 9 races, if you include the All-Star race. So again, he's going to have to start getting more than this, which he is very well capable of doing. So I would not be shocked if that happened. Chase Elliott was number 7 last week. Number 7 this week is Alex Bowman. Same reason as Martin Truex Jr. Only difference between Bowman and Truex is that Bowman has picked up the slack over the last month or so, versus Truex has fallen off the face of the earth the last month or so. The way Truex started this season is similar to how Bowman is running now, where it seems like he's either competing for a win or he's struggling to run top 10, and that's kind of been Truex's season too. Because Bowman's success has been more recent than Martin Truex Jr.'s success. That's why Bowman is at 7th on the power rankings list. Bowman was 6th last week, so he dropped 1 spot this week. He was running top 5 there late in the race, was battling Larson for position. He had no brakes late in the race, got in the back of him, then had a little bit of a tire rub from that contact with, I think Hamlin got into his right rear when they all kind of stacked up there, and that caused a tire rub on Bowman's car. I think if Chase Elliott was not leading, he would have tried to make it to the end of the race. His crew chief even said, hey, 9's leading. We don't want to be a caution. Essentially, they don't want to stack things up and cost his teammate a shot to win if that tire falls apart on top of Bowman getting a bad finish. So they sacrificed. They pitted there, and they finished 22nd, unfortunately, because they should have finished top 5. But then again, should have. Again, it's all matter where you are at the end of the last lap, not where you were 3 laps prior. You don't get points for that. Yeah, I mean, you get stage points throughout the course of the race, but not like 3 laps to go. Oh, you're running second with 3 laps to go, but you finished 20, and so we're still going to give you half the points. No, that doesn't work like that. So where you finish is where you finish at the end of the day. So again, Bowman comes in at number 7. At is Joey Logano. Joey Logano was 5th last week. He drops back 1 spot. He's still got 1 win on the season. Joey Logano is 5th in the regular season standings. He's still got 12 top 10 finishes. But again, this one guy that moved ahead of him ran that much better. Logano did not have as good of a run as I thought he was going to have at Road America this week. But he's still looking good, like he could be a championship 4 contender. He's just on the outside. Again, he's 6th on my power rankings list. So he's like just on the outside of being a championship 4 threat, but definitely a deep playoff threat to say the least. Just a rough 15th place finish this week kind of derailed him in the power rankings by one spot. One other driver that is going to drop one spot as well. This guy is no longer in the top four. He was in the top four last week. That is actually the current points leader, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin comes in at number 5. If the playoffs started this weekend, he would be my pick to be, or sorry, if the championship 4 was this weekend, he'd be my pick to be the first driver to miss the championship 4. Denny Hamlin has had a very consistent season, but consistency can only prove so much, especially with this current format, because if you don't have the playoff points to go along with the consistency, if you don't have the wins and those stage wins to go along with it, it's going to cost him. He does have some stage wins on the season. Currently, he is sitting with 5 stage wins on the year, all in the first 7 races of the season, too. So it's been a while since he's even won a stage. Really goes to show how far off they've been in recent weeks. He's well above the cutoff line. He will make the playoffs. And again, he's still the regular season points leader. But remember when he had over a 100-point lead at one point for the regular season standings, almost 2 full races ahead of second at one point? Well, Kyle Larson has trimmed that gap down to 3. And actually, Larson was 2 points back going into the weekend. He lost 1 point to him after getting spun by his teammate there in the closing laps. Otherwise, Larson would probably be the new points leader. But anyway, again, Denny Hamlin and Hamlin's tire was able to hold on to the finish to get that top 5. So again, he gets a better finish. He's tied for the most top 10s this season with Larson and with William Byron, with Kevin Harvick as well. It's a 4-way tie for the most top 10s. He's tied with the most top 5s as Larson as well. Again, the consistency's there, but not as much lately. Most of that has been towards the beginning of the season. Now into the championship 4, or at least my current championship 4. Again, this changes on a week-to-week basis. These are the 4 drivers who I think, if the playoffs were to start this weekend, would be my most confident picks to making it for a shot at the championship at Phoenix. And it is one JGR Toyota against 3 Hendrick Motorsports drivers. Coming in at number 4 is going to be William Byron. William Byron, again, how could you not? He's been the most consistent this year. Unfortunately, he didn't get the finish he probably deserved this weekend. It looked like early he was going to contend for the win, and ended up having that problem on the last restart of the race where he went wide into turn 5, overcooked the corner. I don't know if he was struggling with a brake issue like his teammate Bowman was. Maybe that could have been. But he ended up hitting pit road. I think he flat spotted his tires after that. He's still sitting 3rd in the point standings. Remember, even we talk about like Denny Hamlin needing the regular season championship win because that's 15 extra playoff points, and he doesn't have a win this year, so that'd be huge for him. But if he drops back to 2nd, he will still get playoff points. You get playoff points for the top 10. He would just get 9 for finishing 2nd and not 15, which losing 6 points. We saw at the end of Martinsville last year, at the end of the round of 8, how we had 3 drivers within 1 point of each other. So every point is that crucial. So if he loses 6 of them here at the end, that's big, but he will still get 9. And for William Byron's sake, being 3rd in points, if he finishes 3rd in the regular season standings, if he can hang on to it for these final 6 races, then he will get 8 additional playoff points. He's already, again, tied for the most top 10s this year. He's got the 5th most top 5s this season. 1 win to show for. Just got his 3rd stage win of the season this weekend at Road America. I could definitely see more going his way as well. We got a couple more road courses. Again, he's really proved himself as a good road course racer early in his career. Not like Chase Elliott or even Larson this year, but he's good. He's definitely a driver that could easily at least get a top 5 run and maybe compete for the win under the right circumstances there. So he's got a couple more chances there. And he's got, he won on a 1.5 miles this year. We go to a 1.5 miles at Atlanta next year. You never know. Coming in at number 3 is a guy who jumped up way up this week. And I stated when he dropped back after Road America that he was slowly starting to slide. There was 2 races in a row where he was starting to slide back down again. And he was in 7th last week, but he's up to 3rd this week, and that would be Chase Elliott. 2nd win of the season, dominating performance at Road America, especially in the second half of the race. To do it coming from the back of the field especially just proves how good of a road course racer he is. We still have 3 more road course races this season, 1 in the playoffs that he's won at twice at the Roval. He's won twice at Watkins Glen, and we've seen him win on all these newer road courses. We got a new one coming to the Cup schedule this year at the Indianapolis road course expect him to compete for wins there. He could have 5 to 6 wins by the end of the year just on road courses alone. He has performed well on the ovals in recent weeks as well, outside of last week when he ended up having an issue there in both Pocono races. But before Pocono, and getting disqualified at Nashville, I guess, too. I forgot about him getting disqualified. Yeah, so he had 3 bad runs in a row. That's why he was down to 7th on the power rankings. But competed for a win in the All-Star race, finished 3rd. 2nd at Sonoma. 2nd at Charlotte. If we just want to look at, let's just look at the ovals. We'll exclude the road courses here. So on the ovals, it's not like Elliott's only been good on the road courses this year. His only wins are on road courses, but 3rd in the All-Star race, oval. 2nd in the Coke 600, oval. 3rd at Dover, oval. 7th at Darlington, oval. 5th at Kansas, oval. So again, he's performing well, and even I'm not going to count Talladega in there for obvious reasons. And then 12th at Richmond, which is under what Chase Elliott considers his worst racetrack, is Richmond. Finishing 12th at your worst racetrack is actually pretty good. 2nd at Martinsville. So he was 5th at Phoenix earlier this year. He won Phoenix last year with the championship race there. So I expect Chase Elliott to continue to compete here. He's, again, 4 drivers make it to the championship 4. So although a guy like Kyle Larson, even his teammate Bowman has more playoff points than him, and Truex has more playoff points. Chase Elliott won Martinsville. That was the only thing that got him to the championship 4 last year. He could do that very well again this year, especially considering he finished 2nd there earlier this season. I'm high on Chase Elliott's radar. It only took 1 race to swing that, but because he won that 1 race, and I expected him to run well, and he did. He met expectations. That's good for Chase Elliott. Meeting or exceeding expectations can drastically move you above, and if you fail far, especially a couple weeks in a row like he did for Pocono and Nashville, that you can move down just as easy as well on my power rankings list, and he's right back up into the top 3. Top 2 remains the same. Kyle Larson is number 1. Kyle Busch is number 2. The Kyle and Kyle show. How great would it be if, like, at the end of the season, we got Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson at Phoenix going back and forth in the closing laps for the championship? That is a dream scenario, and it could very well happen the way both teams are running right now. I think, and I've said this a lot over the last couple of weeks, especially, even before, especially before Kyle Busch won at Pocono. What Kyle Larson done is phenomenal, and we have not seen this in a long while. But his greatness this year is overshadowing Kyle Busch's very strong consistency, especially since that first win at Kansas. Proved it again this weekend, where Hendrick Motorsports is overshadowing what Kyle Busch is doing in the Cup Series, because Busch finishes a quiet 3rd place after starting at the back just like Chase Elliott. He led laps too. We look at Kyle Busch's stats, and I know I repeat it on a week-to-week basis, but I have to because of how good it is. I want to try to spotlight these guys that do deserve it. Kyle Busch more than deserves a spotlight in recent weeks. 3rd at Road America, 1st at Pocono, 2nd at Pocono, 11th at Nashville, which he had a top 3 car, but he ended up fading there late in the race, unfortunately. But for a little bit there, it looked like he was going to have another top 3. 9th in the All-Star race, but if you can even exclude that because it wasn't a points race. 5th at Sonoma, 3rd in the Coke 600 at Charlotte, 10th at Coda, competed for a win. If he didn't pit early, which he didn't have to because it rained, but obviously hindsight's 2020. He ended up finishing still 10th, still got a top 10 run. Mechanical failure at Dover is the only bad race Kyle Larson has had here recently, because then he had a 3rd at Darlington, and then a 1st at Kansas. Even Richmond before Talladega, it looked like he had a race-winning car. 10th at Martinsville. 5th at Atlanta earlier this year. He is back. He is by all means back. And if it wasn't for Hendrick Motorsports being that dominant this year, I think we could be seeing Kyle Busch win 4 or 5 races already this year. I really do. He's been that close. And he could definitely get there before the end of the season because we still got more races to go. Keegan is laying straight facts right now. Yes, I am. As I try to do, at least. But that wraps up the power rankings. Again, Larson, number 1, interchangeable. But all right. Thanks for everybody enjoying this one. If you did, hit the like button down below. Also, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We do daily NASCAR content live here on the channel a lot, whether it's the post-race analysis edition of our NASCAR newly acclaimed NASCAR Fantasy Podcast, whether it's the predictions that we do every weekend for the race, in-depth analysis, unbiased. I'm a huge Ryan Blaney fan, as you see with the hat right here, but I'm very unbiased at that as well. I'm willing to, if he's running bad, again, I have Blaney at 9th on my power rankings list this year, and he's higher than that in points. So that's just kind of how I feel about him so far this season compared to a lot of other drivers. So it is unbiased. I give you guys my best fantasy advice, best betting advice possible when it comes to NASCAR races for the weekend with the predictions, and I go through all my predictions to see how they stacked up in the post-race analysis. So thanks everybody for watching this one. We also do NASCAR Heat 5, NASCAR video game, and uh, also real race, full race broadcast. By that, I do my own live commentary of the races, whether it's the real races, whether it's video game races here on the channel. We got a career mode race coming up here tonight as we're getting in depth with that one. It'll be at Sonoma, the first road course race, so that'll be exciting. So we got that one coming up here in a matter of moments, and then we also have the uh, again, the live races on the weekend. The next live race broadcast will be for the truck race at Knoxville this weekend. I don't do every truck Xfinity Cup Series race because I go to a lot of races in person, and I don't want to overkill it. Like on the weekends, I want to actually, watch from my couch, without talking about the race. I like listening to the broadcast a lot, but once a week for a lot of the season, pretty much the tracks I'm not going to, we've been doing about one race a weekend, whether it's the truck, Xfinity, or Cup. So this weekend it'll be the trucks at Knoxville Friday night on the channel. We'll have a live ticker, live leaderboard on the channel, and then you'll hear my commentary for the race as well. So maybe if you're watching the race on Fox Sports 1, you want to mute it, listen to my commentary, you definitely can. But I highly recommend trying to watch the race on Fox Sports 1 if you can. If that's the way you watch it, that helps us both out. So I greatly appreciate it. So thanks everybody for watching. And I will see you guys very shortly here for that NASCAR Heat 5 career mode race at Sonoma. I'll get right to you, Oni, and try to get you back into the live streams as well if you're watching this one right now. Hopefully before the Sonoma race, I should have that figured out. Hopefully, I hope I do. And if I don't, then I'm sorry. But I will get on that I don't have to work tomorrow, so I will definitely get on that soon. Thanks, and appreciate, as always. Catch you in a little bit.